We left off by 10a at the 2 dots. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About 8 lines. 8 lines down. The word masket, the fourth word on the line. So we previously mentioned that the people that wrote the documents, they would start counting from 380 years before the destruction of the temple, which is the time where the Greeks took over. So on that, we're going to ask, why are you counting from when the Greeks took over? Why don't you count from the time that we left Egypt? Now, Rashi is going to do the math for us that there's going to be 1,000 years from the exodus of Egypt to when the Greeks took over. So you can do the same calculation and just really count from when we left Egypt. And the Shafke Alfikamo, take away the 1,000. When you start counting, just take away the 1,000 years. So it's really 1,380 years before the destruction of the temple of Pene. Yeah, right there. Right in Moscow. So why don't you just start counting from when you left Egypt, which is going to be 1,380 years before the destruction of the second temple. And the Nakte Alpha Basra, just count the second 1,000 years, meaning the 380 years. And that which we pointed out yesterday, which we're going to ask on now, when you have a document that's a post-dated document, and instead of 500, it's year 506. So instead of Rav Nachman saying that document must be written by somebody who's very exact, rather, why don't you say and therefore it's not a post-dated document, why don't you say it's really the calculations from the leaving of Egypt, which is exactly 1,000 years before the Greeks took over, and we're counting from that time period. And if that would be true, then really this document would be a post-dated document, and therefore the document really is post-dated. So yesterday we said that Rav Nachman said when you have a document that now it's the year 500, since in the year 380 you're up to the year 500 now, and the document is calculated to the year 506. So Rav Nachman said, no, it's not a post-dated document. It's written by someone who's very exact, and it's a good document. However, and he was just counting from when the Greeks took over Elam, which was those 6 years, and therefore it's a good document, and you can collect from now. So say, no, why don't you just count from the time we left Egypt? And the time we left Egypt, it's and therefore it's going to be a post-dated document. Now Rashi does the math a little bit, so he says that from leaving Mitzrayim until the first temple was destroyed, until the building of the first temple was 480 years, and then it stood for 410 years. That's going to be 990, and then 890. Thank you. And then you had 70 years of exile. Then you're going to get to 960, and then you're going to have another 420 years of the second temple, and you'll get to 1,380. So it's 420 years. Yeah, 1380 exactly. So if you would count from there, so then the document would be a good document. Amar of Nachman begola ein monin ela lamachli vanim bava. So in the Golos, we only start counting from when the Greeks took over. So we don't count from earlier. And therefore, if you have a document that's dated 6 years ahead of time for the year 506 as opposed to the year 500, then Rav Nachman will say it's not a post-dated document. Rather, it's written by the exact scribes who are including those 6 years that the Greeks ruled Elam. So, okay. Now, who's Savar? So who's Savar Dechuy Kamatchile? So he thought that maybe this idea that we only calculate from the time of the Greeks was just a way to push off the question. He didn't really hold of that idea. It was just a way to deflect the question. Now we only count in the exile. We only calculate from when the Greeks took over. But then he went and he found the brisa that was explicit, like Rav Nachman, and he realized, no, that's actually really true. The Tanya, what does it say? Begola ein monin elo maki yivanim bilvad. The brisa explicitly says that in exile we only the scribes, they only start counting from we start counting only from the time of the Greeks, from the time of the Greeks. Now we're going to prove that really our calculations are from the Greeks from the following Mishnah. It's a little bit of a journey, and then we'll see at the end. So Masnisin, our Mishnayos, not here in Avodah Zora, but other places like Rosh Hashanah, are Meduyik. They very much are telling of this idea that we really start counting from the time of the Greeks. So how do we know? The Tanan, the first Mishnah Rosh Hashanah says, the Echad ben Nisan Rosh Hashanah l'malachim u'leregalim. The first of Nisan is the new year for the kings and for the holidays. The Amrinon, and we said on that Gemara, l'malachim l'may hilchasa. What does first year for the kings mean? What halachic difference does that make to us? Amrav Chisda l'shtaros. It makes a difference to know when you start counting, when you document, when you date your documents. So this is 3 months from the time of the ruler. They took over 2 years from the. You're always calculating in your documents when you're dating them from when the kings took over. That starts in Nisan. That's one Mishnah. V'tanan ve'echad b'tishrei, Rosh Hashanah l'shanim u'l'shmitim. It's also the first of Tishrei is the new year for the years and the shmitas. V'amrina, and we asked l'shanim l'may hilchasa. For the years, what's the halachic difference? It's the first of it's the new year for the years. What does that mean? V'amrav Chisda l'shtaros. It says Rav Chisda for documents. So we have one new year for documents on the first of Nisan, and another new year for documents is on the first of Tishrei. So says the Gemara, well, which one is it? Kasha shtaros ahadadi. It's a kasha. It's a new year, is the Nisan or Tishrei. Says the Gemara, umeshaninan kan l'malchei Yisrael and kan l'malchei ovdei kochav. It depends if we're counting from Jewish kings or we're counting from non-Jewish kings. The Ovdei Kochavim, the non-Jews, we count their kings from Tishrei, and our kings we count from Nisan. Now, the Anan, that says the Gemara, when do we have our new year? We have it in Tishrei. The Anan Hashta, mit Tishrei Maninan, we, every Tishrei, we start the new year. It's a new year for us, right? So we count from Tishrei, and that coincides with when the non-Jewish, when we start counting from the non-Jewish kings. So says the Gemara now, and this is the proof. If you want to tell me that our calculations are actually from when we left Egypt, when we left Mitzrayim, and not from when the Greeks took over, and therefore you want to say that that document is post-dated, so how come, if that's true, we should be counting Nisan by Lemimne? We should start counting from Nisan. Nisan should be our new year. And yet we don't do that. Rather, Tishrei is our new year. Elalav Shmamina, Lamalche Yevanim, Manina Shmamina. It must be that really we count our counting is from Tishrei, and therefore our documents will be from Tishrei, which is after the non-Jewish kings, and therefore really we count from when the Greeks took over.
Presumably that's because we don't have Jewish kings anymore. When they were writing it, we did. We go back to
Nisan. And Rosh Hashanah would be a Nisan time.
No, Rosh Hashanah would be when it still is, but documents be dated from Nisan.
So why the Rosh Hashanah from Nisan? Why the split? Yes. Yeah.
That's right.
So it happens to be, I was thinking.
No, Yom Teruah is defined by the Torah as the first day of the seventh month.
But why? Rosh Hashanah would be then, you're right, but the new year for us, when we count the new year, that should be from Nisan.
As what? The document.
As what? What else other than documents? I guess so, yeah.
Making an edit.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we said the Yom Ginusia. There's something called Yom Ginusia. One of their idol worship days is the Yom Ginusia. My the Yom Ginusia Shamal Kayam. What is the Yom Genusia of their kings? It's the day, their inauguration ceremony of their kings is Yom Genusia, and now is the day that they would serve idols. V'hatanya, but look at the Bryce, it says Yom Genusia, v'Yom Shemamidim bo es Malkam. It sounds like there's something called Yom Genusia, and there's something else that's called the day that we inaugurate the kings. So Yom Genusia can't be that day, because then it doesn't make any sense. So it says somewhere, lo kasha. Hadi day, hadi bray. No, really, Yom Genusia is the day that they become the king, their inauguration ceremony. When the Brisa says it's the day that they made their kings, it's when the son took over the kingship. That was the day that they, in the father's lifetime, that was a different day. That was called the day that they became the kings. So Yom Genusia is when they themselves became the kings, and Yom Shemamidim Boas Malcolm is the day where their sons became the kings.
Presumably, not every king was the son of the previous. They had two, they had princes, they had, some other kings took over, they would do the first one.
Correct. Says the Gemara, Umi Mukmi Malka Bar Malka. Would you have the son of a king take over the kingship during the king's lifetime? The Hatani Rav Yosef said from Ovadia in reference to, I believe, to Rome. So here you're the small one I gave to the nations. She'ein Moshivin Belach ben Melech. That you don't make a king the son of a king. So it sounds like we interpret that verse in Ovadia that the Romans didn't make a king the son of a king. And now it's just parenthetical, finishing off the Brisa. It says, Bazu atamaod, you're very disgraced. Why? She'ein lehen lo ksav lo lashon. You don't have your own writing, your own language. Meaning to say, you don't have your original language. Your language is taken from others. So I think they point out they're not the only nation that the language is taken from others. There's a lot of people that have languages from others. So, okay. So really, Elamai Yom Genusia. What's Yom Genusia? Yom Haleda. It's the birthday. The birthday of the king is the day that they would go and serve their idols. Yom Genusia Yom Haleda. It says another brisa, Yom Genusia, and the day of their birthdays. So obviously Yom Genusia means something else. Lo kasha hadidei hadibrei. It depends. Is it your birthday or your son's birthday? So says another brisa of Yom Genusia Shalo, Yom Genusia Shal Beno. It says that there's Yom Genusia Shalo and Yom Genusia Shal Beno. So the Yom Genusia can refer to you, or Yom Genusia can refer to the son. It's not only referring to one of them. The Yom Haleda Shlo, Yom Haleda Shal Beno, and it's either your birthday or the son's birthday. So Ela the Gemara retracting says really my Yom Genusia, like we thought originally. Yom Shemamidim Bo Malcolm. It's the day that the king got inaugurated. Velo Kasha, and we had a brisa that seemed to say that that's not what Yom Genusia meant, and we answered it was referring to him or his son, and then we had a question from another from teaching of Rav Yosef. So to that we say Velo Kasha Hadidei Hadibrei. And that the first brisa we're going to answer that Yom Genusia is referring to him, the king himself, being inaugurated. And then there's another festival when the son is inaugurated. And that which you asked, do you make a king, do you make the son of a king in the father's lifetime? It sounds like not. So when you ask permission from the officers, so then if the father, the king, asks permission from his office, and they grant him permission, it passes through the House and the Senate, so that his son could be the king. Yeah.
They had a Senate.
Was they?
They had a Senate.
They had a Senate. That's right. So you never know. Maybe Trump will pass a bill that his kid's going to be the president. So now, what's an example of this? And then we're going to get into a long story about Antoninus. Kigon Asurius bar Antoninus, the Melech. So, like Asurius bar Antoninus, who became the king in his father's lifetime through his father requesting permission from his chevra. Is that his name? I don't know his name. Yeah, okay. So, yeah. So Amrle Antoninus and Rebbe, we'll see more, had a very, very close relationship. Antoninus Mamish, they were very beloved relationship between the two of them.
Hmm.
So, so Amrle Antoninus LaRebbe, Be'ina de Yimloch, Asvirus Bre Tachtuye, and then about this Aved Tiveria Klanya. I want my son to be king, and then I want the city of Tiveria to be free of taxes. Tiveria is where the Torah scholars resided, and he wanted to free them. He wanted to free them of their taxes, and he wanted his son to be the king and his son to do that. Apparently, he was not able to do that in his lifetime, in his king, while he was king, but he thought that his son had a better chance. Yeah. So, okay. So what did Rebbe tell him?
Where Solania was the first word colony. So there they translated a free community.
Their client is like the free of taxes. So the Emalahu. So now he says the Emalahu Chada Avdi Trelo Avdi. Says Antoninus, if I go back and ask my my senate, my officers for they won't grant me both the requests. They won't grant me the request of my son becoming king and Tiveria being free of taxes. Only going to do one of them. So says Rebbe, Isi Gavra. So he's going to allegorically answer the question. A number of allegorical answers to Antoninus' question. Isi Gavra Arkeve Chabre. So you have one guy that's on his friend's shoulders. V'yahiv le Yona le Eloi v'yadeh, and you give the guy on the shoulders a dove. And you tell the guy on the bottom, Aimer le Ela de lemifcha min yadeh. Tell the guy on top of your shoulders to let that dove go. De lemifrach min yadeh Yona. So that's what Rebbe told Antoninus. Imagine a guy on someone else's shoulders. The guy on the top has a dove. The guy on the bottom tells the guy on the dove, let your dove go free. So Antoninus understood. Amar Shmamina Hakikamarli. At Boyminayu, the Asvirus Bre Yimlok Taktuye, the Emil Asvirus, the Tavet Tiveria Klanya. Ask one request. Ask them to grant your son to be the king. And then tell your son that he should ask them to grant freedom of taxes of Tiveria.
But the Caesars had no ultimate power.
I was saying the same thing.
Here they have to talk. They have to go to their senate.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Interesting.
We're going to see that they're going to, right now.
Okay.
Here, Amrle Mitzarinli Chashivaramai. Not only that, but his people were trying to persecute him.
Again, in the Bar Kamsa, the station gets recalled, and the next one, the Senate has appointed you. The Senate has appointed you.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. So here he says, Amrle Mitzarinli Chashivaramai. They're causing me a lot of distress. Meaning, I think that they're coming after me. So what should I do? So he asked Rebbe. So Ma'aya Le Legina. So Ma'aya Le Legina. So he says, take him. He says, go to another allegorical answer. Ma'aya Le Legina. Go into the garden, and Kol Yoma Akar Le Pugla Mi Mishra Kameh. And every day, go pick out a radish? A radish from the whatever.
The bed in front of them.
Rabbi would bring it to me as radish.
No, he wouldn't bring it to him.
My LA would be not.
He'd go with him to the garden, and then he would he would remove the radish. So now, what did that teach Antoninus? Another allegorical answer. Now here it could be he did allegorical because he didn't want to. But we'll see later. He did later. The Gemara is going to say with all these allegorical things that even things that are said in private might be let out. So Rebbe didn't want people to know about it. Maybe that applies here also. So Amar Shman, but Antoninus understood Shmamina Hakikamar. It is what he means to say. At Katal Chad Chad Minayu V'lo Tiskar V'Hubakul. Kill them one at a time. Remember the officers that are bothering you, turning the page. Kill them one at a time, and don't kill them all at once. Oh, so here we go. So here the Gemara is going to ask. So V'Leimale Meimar Behedya. So why don't Rebbe just tell them this? Why do you have to go into the garden and pick out a radish? Sorry, just say it explicitly. So Amar, what do you mean? Shami Chashuve Romi Umetzarile. Rebbe says, well, they're going to hear me say how I have a plan to kill them. They're going to come after my life. Okay, so you can whisper things in secret, and that can work too. V'leim le b'lachash michshuv dichsiv Mishum Diksiv, Ki Ofa Shemaim Yolich Esakol. That the birds of the heaven are gonna, the boys are gonna travel. It's like the Kollel building. The walls are so thin. Yeah, it's something quietly and everyone could hear. So you never know who's listening. You never know. So this way, people that know, that have relatives that work high up in the government, when you call them to ask them about like world news, they tell you, I can't tell you over the phone. Like, so you have to know how to do that. So
in the government, everything now is available.
They could see it. Yeah. So okay. Now a lot more about Antonius. Havale Hahu Barta. Antonius had a daughter, Barta, the Shma Gira. Her name was Gira. Now, Ka'avda Isura, Rashi learns she committed some level of adultery. So Ka'avda Isura. So what should he do? Shadar Lei, so Antoninus sent to Rebbe, Shadar Lei Gargira. He sent him a Gargira, which is some kind of seed, right?
Rocket herb.
I don't know what a rocket herb is. Yeah, some kind of herb. Okay, what's a rocket herb? I don't know. Ask NASA. I don't know. So the Shadalei Gargira. So now, so Rebbe understood that this Gargira, it means Rashi says that the word Gargira, the herb, has the word Nigrar, being Gairis, to be drawn after. So he understood that the daughter Gira was Nigrar. She was drawn after promiscuity. So, and he understood that Antonius was asking, what should I do? So, should he kill her? I mean, you can't do you can't have illicit relations. What should he do? So, Shadarle Kus Barta. Rebbe sent him back a Kus Barta, another kind of herb, a leek. They point to some kind of a. It's a Rashi and Shmos, some kind of a circular kind of herb plant. Okay.
The one in Rosh.
Oh, it's similar to the word hairy.
So this Kuzbarta is Kos Barta. So it's her daughter is Barta, and Kos is to cut her off. You should kill her. Shadarle. So Shadarle, one second. He sent him a Gargira, and then he sent back a Kuzbarta, and now Antoninos. No. So Hadia, he sent him Karti. He said, if that's true, what's going to happen is that she's my only daughter. I'm going to lose my whole line. My progeny is going to go. So what do you do? So Rabbi sent him back. Shadarle Chasa. Chasa, like lettuce, but it means to have Rahmanas, to have a Chasaleha, Chasaleha, Chas b'shalom, right? So therefore, if that's going to happen, then don't kill her. Okay. Kol Yoma have Shadarle Dava Pricha b'matrasa. Antoninus would send Rabbi every day a crushed gold in a leather pouch, and on the opening to it, I don't know, by the zipper, by the buttons, by the snaps, was vechite, was wheat, apumayu, and he was trying to disguise it. So Amar Lahu, so he'd tell his messengers, tuyi chite leRebbe, bring wheat to Rebbe. So Rebbe would get this pouch full of gold. So Rebbe was very, very wealthy. Gemara in the Ksuba says he lifted up his 10 fingers and says, I was very, very, very wealthy. I used all my fingers, everything I had was all for Hashem, nothing for myself. Amar Le, Rebbe, lo tzrichina, isli tuba, like I got plenty, thank you, but no thank you. So Antonina said back to him, L'havin leman libasreich, Yahavi libasrai. Now you're going to need it for your children and your grandchildren. Why? Dasi basrach v'dasi minayu nepuk alayu, because what's going to happen? There could be a lot of your children and grandchildren are going to have to pay a lot of taxes to the Roman government, and that's going to come after me, meaning after I'm not here anymore. So they're going to levy high taxes, and so take this money not for you, but your children, your grandchildren. Who knows what's going to happen with the economy? Give it to them, and it'll be very useful. Havale hahi nakarta. There was a certain tunnel. Rabbi. that would go from Antoninus' house to the house of Rebbe. Kol Yom Have Maisei Trei Avdi. He would go with 2 servants to the house of Rebbe. Chad Katle Above Be Rebbe. One he would kill at the entrance to Rebbe's house. V'chad Katle Above the base. And on his way back, he would kill the other one because he didn't want people to know about this this meeting between Antoninus and Rebbe. Yeah.
You want to know how about the cave or the tunnel.
Right. So that's what he would do. So Amar Lei, Antoninus told Rebbe, listen, when I come over, no one else could be here. Amar Lei, I don't want anyone else to be here. There's a private meeting, and presumably what he was worried that if the Roman emperor, the government found out that he was with Rebbe, learning, talking together, they wouldn't be happy about it. Why would they not be happy about it? They want to,
Didn't like the Jews.
Yeah, I guess so.
He was Antonius is maybe a friend, but the rest
The
of
Ravid says Antoninus didn't want any Roman to suspect him of studying Torah.
Interesting. Yeah, Tosus points out also that even though you can't kill somebody, it's one of the summons they know that you can't kill, but he didn't want word to get out that it's going to kill him, because if word got out, then they would kill him. Yeah, okay. So he says no one could be here because he felt it was like the Kuchen, was like life-threatening if he would find out that he was at the house of Rebbe. So Yom Echad, he gets there, and who's there? Eshkel Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama. He says Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama is there. He broke the rules. Habit Yosef. So Antina's like, didn't we have a deal? Amar lo minolach be'edna da'asina lo nisha gavar kamoch. Didn't I tell you that we can't have anybody here? So Rebbe responds to him, Amar le Leizdin Bar Inish. Don't worry, he's not a human being. The Rebbeinu Chanal here says he's a malach. He's a malach. He's not. Don't worry about him. He's not like, So Antinus is like, well, that's interesting. So Amar le lahu avda the gage bave the convalese. Why doesn't he go bring the eved that's sleeping outside the entrance? Why don't you go and bring him in? Now the guy's dead. Such a malach. Let's see what he could do. So what do? Rabbi Chanina Bar Chama Eshche the Havikatil. So Rabbi Chanina goes there and finds this guy Eved dead at the doorstep of Rebbe's house. So Amar, okay, now what should I do? Hey Chiyavet, what should I do? If I go and I tell him the katil that, oh, by the way, he's dead. So there's an interesting rule, I think, sourced maybe from the Megillah story. Ein meishivin ala kalkala. If you're going to send a mission, if you're sent on a mission, and there's a certain failure, you shouldn't be the one to report the bad news. Have someone else do it. So it's an interesting way to know where and how this applies exactly. So he felt, listen, I'm breaking the rule of Ein meishivin ala kalkala. I was sent to do a mission to bring the sleeping evidence to the house. The guy's dead, so better that I don't bring the bad news and someone else should do it. So I can't do that. Now, a shafke the azel. Should I just like walk out and leave? Take a hike and go back home? That's kamez alzina b'malchusa. That's being very degrading to the malchus, to Antoninus. He told me to do something. I just ditched the mission. So you can't be mazalza. You can't degrade the kingship either. So what do you do? So he was stuck. So what does a Jew do when he's stuck? Davens. Bo rachmei aleha. He asked Hashem for mercy. The achye the shadre, and he was able to bring back this Eved back to life, and he brought him in. So now Antoninus sees this. Amar, okay. Yadana zuti de isbechu mechayim. So now I see even the lowest of the rabbis can revive the dead. Mihu, but in a dasina lo nishach inishkama. But either way, like next time, don't do this. When I come, I don't want any people here. Even people that could revive the dead, they're like malachim, whatever it is. I don't want anybody here. Please, for next time, thank you. Okay. Kol yom have mishamish the Rebbe. Antoninus loved Rebbe. Every day he would be mishamishim. He would bring him food and drink. Machile, mashkile, food and drink. Now, Kavibai Rebbe, when it's time for Rebbe to take a small nap, so Lemeisak the Puria to go onto his bed. So Antoninus would bend down. Have a gachin kamei Puria. And Amarle, Saki Levi the Puria, go on me and go up to your bed. So Rebbe said, no. Amar lav orach ara lezazulu b'malchusak kulei hai. That's already too much. You're the emperor. To step on your back to go onto my bed, that's already too much. So it's interesting because the Gemara in Kedushin says about someone else who was mechaber their mother so much. he would let her walk on his back. It's interesting, similar idea. So Amar, he said, so Antonia said, if only I could be placed as a mattress for you for the next world. Meaning, I'm so happy to be your mattress. So now, speaking of the next world, he asked Amrle, Asina la'alma da'asi? Am I going to the next world? So Rabbi said, Amrle, yeah, you are. You get the next world. So Antonius told him, Amrle v'haksiv lo yesar the base Esav. There's going to be nobody that's going to be left over from the house of Asa, which is the father of Rome. So therefore, I'm the Roman emperor. So it seems to be against the verse in Ovadia. So Rabbi told him, it's only when you do something which is reminiscent of the acts of Asa. If you act that way, but if you just happen to be from there, that doesn't guarantee you that you're going to lose your Olam Haba. The Brisa supports us. It says there should be no one left over from the house of Asa. You'd have thought literally nobody would ever be left over. No one's going to get the next world. The base Esav, it's only the Osa Maisa Esav. It's only someone who continues in Esav's ways. Are they going to lose their Olam Haba? However, someone who doesn't. It's interesting because the Gemara says that the Gemara is a contradiction in verses, and it says that a person does or doesn't get punished for his parents' Averis. So the Gemara reconciles by saying it depends if you fall in their bad ways or not. If you fall in their bad ways, then you will get punished. If not, not. Very, very similar to this. Just coming from Asa doesn't guarantee you that you're losing the next world. But if you continue in his ways, so then that will guarantee you that you will lose the next world. Okay, work on yourself. Yeah, Lamerle, but he says, Antonius said the verse says in Yecheskel, the Haksiv, Shama Edom Melachecha, the Chol Nisiyeha. So it says that Shama Edom, how do they translate it? It's going to be desolate. Or there, no, maybe this one's there. Yeah, Edom Melachecha, all their kings of Kol Nisiyeha and all their princes, all the high officers. Yeah, they're all going to go. So the Chol Nisiyeha. So it sounds like they're not going to be around. So all the kings and all the Nisim, presidents, very high officers. So Amrle, what it means is Malkeha below Kol Malkeha. It doesn't mean all the kings. It means some of the kings. Kol Nisiyah, Malkeha below Kol Malkeha, Kol Nisiyah below Kol Sareha. It says some of the officers, some of the Nisim below Kol Sareha, but not all of the officers are not going to be around. Tanya Mihachi. A Bryce says the same thing. Some kings, not all kings. Some officers, not all the high officers. Some kings and not all kings. Antoninus. It's excluding Antoninus ben Asvirus. I guess it's interesting. He named his son after his grandfather. Same name. Yeah. Asvirus. So he's going to be excluded, and then. Kol Nisiyah below Kol Sarah, all the presidents, the high officers, but not some of them, but not all of them below Kol Sarah. Prat Likitia Bar Shalom, which we'll see more about, excluding Kitia Bar Shalom. Kitia Bar Shalom was an officer that got the next world. Rashi points out that this verse that we're expanding now is talking about Gehenna. It's talking about Gehenna. So there means that there in Gehenna, you're going to find the kings and the officers. So that the Gemara is saying all the kings and everybody says, no, not everybody, not Antoninus, not Ketir Bar Shalom, but everyone else will be found in Gehenna. Okay, so that's it with Antoninus for now. But we just mentioned this other officer who's going to get the next world, and his name was Ketir Bar Shalom. So says the Gemara, Ketir Bar Shalom. Who exactly is Ketir Bar Shalom? What did he do to grant the next world? So there was a certain Caesar that hated the Jews. So Amar Lahu l'chashive de Malchusa. He asked his chashava, his important officers, important. He asked the Senate. So Mish Olo Nima Baraglo, someone has dead skin on their foot. So Yaktena v'Yichya, should you cut it off so that the rest of the foot will be good? Oh, Yani Chena v'Yitztar, or should you leave it and continue to be in tremendous pain? So should I destroy the Jews and then everyone else will be happy? Or should I leave them and they'll continue to aggravate me? So what did they tell him? This is an easy question. Yeah, you should cut them off and then v'yichya, and then you'll be able to live. It'll be easier for you to run your government, run your countries. So Amar Lahu K'tir Bar Shalom. So K'tir Bar Shalom, one of the high officers, spoke up, and he said two things. We're going to see one now, one in a little bit. Chada delo yachaltalu lekula. The first thing is you can't kill all the Jews. Why? The verse says, that I spread them out across the four corners of the earth. So now the Gemara just parenthetically explains, what does this mean? My kamar ilema dibidar tuhun ba'arba ruchos. If you want to tell me they're actually spread out across the whole world, so it should say, Hay ki arba ruchos. They're spread like the four corners of the earth. It says to be the four winds, the four areas of in four directions. It should say le arba ruchos mibayle. They're spread out to the four areas, all four directions. They're spread out, not like four directions. What does it mean that they're spread out like the four directions? So ella kishem she'iev shar la'olam below ruchos. Just like it's impossible to have a world without wind, it'll be because it's going to be too much humidity. Kach iev shar la'olam below Yisrael. So too, it's impossible to have a world without the Jewish people. And Rashi and Tainus points out that it's the Jews that keep the world going. So the removal of the Jews would end the world as well. So the world needs the Jews, and therefore they're very important. So the ode, so that was the first thing he told him. The ode, Karlucha Malchusa Katia. So his name was Katia, it means to cut off. If you're gonna go kill the Jews, they're gonna view you as this murderous king. You're a genocidal king. So you don't want that as your name. Like it didn't stop anybody else in our history from going after us.
They don't say a murdering kingdom, but a severed kingdom.
Which means what?
Yeah, part of the population has been killed. It's like a reduced kingdom.
Really?
Alternatively, a genocidal kingdom, like you said.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so either it's a reduced kingdom, you have less people, I guess. Your kingdom has shrunk, or it means your genocidal kingdom.
You can't overcome all the Jews because they're spread beyond his reach. They're all over. Yeah.
Okay, so now the king, at least, I don't know which response he liked more, but the Caesar told Amarle, Meimar Shapir Kamras, said, you're right. You basically outdid me. I want to destroy them. You told me two things. I like what you said. What's the problem? Whenever you defeat a king in an argument, you're causing him tremendous embarrassment, and therefore we're going to have to kill you and throw you into the chamber. So, Miu, Kol Dezachi Malka, Shadule Le Kamunya, Khalila, some kind of a chamber full of dirt. A round chamber of Rashi, it's bias mole afar. It's a place full of afar, full of dirt. So, which basically sounds like you're not really going to come out of there alive. So, could have a nakdin le v'azlin, as he was being taken out. Amrle hahi matrinisa, the certain Roman lady spoke up and said, "Vaile leilfa the azla below michsa." You're being killed because you're saving the Jews. So chaval that you should go without paying any taxes, meaning at least give yourself a bris milah, take off your foreskin, so therefore you can get the next world. Problem is, it doesn't say anywhere that a non-Jew, in order to receive the next world, has to take off a foreskin, has to do a bris milah. So I think they point out that what it means is that but you can skip the Gehenna part. So it's interesting. I was looking up yesterday, 2 days ago, one of the tremendous things about bris milah, that it saves the person from Gehenna. That's what it said. It was interesting. Very much today's daf. They say, at least give yourself, cut off your foreskin, give yourself bris milah, and therefore you'll get to the next world, either painlessly. So what did he do? Nafal al reishe dorlase and kata. Somehow he fell on his foreskin and he took it off. I don't know. He had scissors. I don't know. He had his teeth. I don't know what he did, but he was able to cut it off. So Amar Yahavis Michse. So Amar Yahavis Michse. Oh, Yahavis Michse. I pay my tax. Chalaf is offers. Now I can go on. I can pass on to the next world. So as he was going, he said, Kika Shadile Amar Kol Mechasel Rabbi Akiva v'Chavero. All of my possessions should go to Rabbi Akiva v'Chavero and his colleagues.
As they were throwing him
into the pit.
The pit or the chamber was the place they buried them alive in there.
Uh-huh. Not so good.
Another foot.
Not so good.
No.
So he said, I'm going to give all my possessions to Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues. So now, how do you divide it up? Half and half. What do you do? So Yatzer Rabbi Akiva v'darash, she went and he darshaned v'hayil Aaron ulabana mechtel Aaron and mechtel labana. It says v'hayil Aaron ulabana that now that's talking about what the truma, the lechem upon him, the bread, and that goes to Aaron and his Rasha lechem upon him, and the Kohen takes half. So too here, Rabbi Akiva will get half, and his colleagues will get half. So Yatz Tabaskel, a heavenly voice came out and said, "Amra, Kitia Bar Shalom Mezuman L'Chayolam Haba." That Kitia Bar Shalom is invited. He is destined for the next world. So it's interesting. Is it because of just saving the Jews, and this story is just parenthetical that he gave his possessions to Rabbi Akiva, or did the Gemara need to mention that story as another reason why he gets Olam Haba? I'm not sure. It sounds like probably parenthetical, but mention that, yeah. So Bacha Rabbi cried and says, "Look, Bamar Yesh Kona Olamo B'Sha'achas. Some people can acquire the next world in one moment. Yesh Kona Olamo B'Kamashanim. Some people have to work very hard to acquire the next world. And this person right now gets the next world just through the actions that he just that he did. Okay. Tomorrow we're going to hear all about Unkelos Hager. Unkelos Hager.